The day starts with a climb at the Côte de Megève, which most people know from the skiing area around here. Then there's a fairly flat valley road down towards Albertville, where the Olympic Games were several years ago. But it's really towards the latter part of the race that everybody is worried, Phil, because that's when this race is really going to kick up. We start off, the hors d'oeuvre is the Col de Telegraph, and then the high spot of the day is the Col du Galibier at almost 8,000 feet. A quick respite as the race dives down into the valley road, but then it's the final, the big mother of all of the Alp climbs, the Alpe d'Huez, 1,850 meters. It's an absolute remarkable climb, and it always chills my bones when I come here.
Well, it's a super route. We started in Solange, scene of the 1980 World Champions, won by a certain Bernard Hinault then, 5 times winner of the Tour de France. Alpe d'Huez will be our 23rd visit there. I've seen 22 of them, I hate to admit. 219 kilometres, 2 sprints along the Ray. There are 2 all-category climbs. One is the Alpe d'Huez, one is the Col du Galibier. So far we've pedalled 1,272 kilometres. We still have 2,154 to go. This is the rollout without Aitor Gonzalez, who didn't start, nor his Fassa Bortolo teammates Gustav and Montgomery. That team is looking very shaky now. An early attack, including Jens Voigt, tried to get away from the field, but when they went over the first climb of the day, Richard Virenque himself increased his lead in the King of the Mountains, ahead of Eddie Mazzolini and Patrice Algon. Down the twists and turns of the Côte de Megève, they moved on to the Côte de Rafour at 30 kilometres covered. This time Virenque outsprinting George Hincapie and Lance Armstrong, again moving clear in the King of the Mountains. Then we went down to Albertville. Nicolas Portal had started his move. He was 35 seconds ahead there, ahead of Thor Hushovd, who beat Baden Cook to the line in a great sprint, but Cook has increased his lead slightly in that green jersey competition. He got 2 points here for that. But by the time we got to Saint-Michel de Maurienne at 121 kilometres, then the leader had been joined, Portal, by Renier, Fedrigo and Axel Merckx. They didn't really contest this. Axel Merckx went over first, Fedrigo and Renier taking the places. We're now looking at Paolo Bettini. Yesterday he was in the break. He was caught by his teammate Richard Virenque. Virenque went on to take the stage and the yellow jersey. But today we are now seeing this man working for his new leader for as long as possible. All of the riders that matter are in that group at the moment. As I say, Aitor Gonzalez, winner of the Tour of Spain, did not start today. We're looking here at Gerrit Glomser, Paul, who lost time with Simone yesterday. Same group for him. He's now trying to make amends. He's trying to catch up with the leader.
Some big names lost some serious time yesterday. Not only did Gilberto Simoni get blown out of the back of Lance Armstrong's group, but also Santiago Botero. It's a surprise to see those 2 men suffering on the first day in the mountains, and already on the start of this climb, Santiago Botero has been left behind. The man who won the Tour of Italy this year, Gilberto Simoni, is still holding on to this group, but I was so surprised to see him drop yesterday on what was a very large group at the summit of the Col de la Ramaz. This is a good day, though, Phil, tactically for Armstrong, because not chasing down Virenque yesterday had put the yellow jersey onto the shoulders of the Frenchman, and he is using his team over the next few days to try and keep hold of that lead. That takes pressure away from US Postal Service, and Armstrong can sit back and let somebody else do all of the work.
All going according to plan at the moment, we think, for Armstrong. This is now Glomser. He's already passed Axel Merckx. He's now passing here. Renier just holding on there. He's not far from the summit of the Telegraph, but I'm afraid the bad news is he's not far from the start of the climb of the Col du Galibier either. So there's only 1 man ahead now, and that is Pierrick Fedrigo. Now a change in the overall classification yesterday, and the new man in the yellow jersey, and the French are delighted on this Centennial Tour. Richard Virenque leading by 2 minutes 37 seconds over Lance Armstrong, who maintained his second place. He was only 1 second behind his teammate Victor Hugo Peña. Aldag third, great ride by him. Other stars, Yoshiba Bolocki is still very much in the frame. He lies in 6th place. Jan Ulrich is there too in 9th place. Acevedo completes the top 10. Tyler Hamilton, with his broken collarbone, hasn't conceded that much. He's 20th. Stefano Garzelli, a former winner of the Giro d'Italia, he's in 25th place. Botero had a bad day, 68th now. And Gilberto Simoni, worse, 12 minutes now behind and wallowing in 74th place. So as they continue the climb, this is the man who's got rid of the 3 riders he was with. There is a massive crowd on every mountain top in the Alps today. The ones the race go over, of course. We'll see huge crowds on the Galibier, and I hope we see the bike riders on Alpe d'Huez, because the crowd there, I reckon that there could be 400 to 500,000 people there.
I can't believe the number of people who were still coming up last night at 1 o'clock in the morning when you and I were trying to drive up here.
That's why we didn't like the spectators.
So many people. I have never seen so many people up here, Phil.
It's wonderful.
And even the deviation as we got closer to the finish was packed with riders. 198 riders started the Tour de France, and there are a lot less than that here right now, and many of them falling by the wayside. 183 riders for the moment still left in the race, but I think, Phil, the big news of the day is the decimation of Fassa Bortolo, the team of Alessandro Patacchi. They started this Tour de France on a dream note with 4 stage wins to their sprinter Alessandro, but after that we've seen them fall by the wayside. Yesterday 2 abandons from the team. That was Patacchi and Marco Vello, and today 4 more riders have fallen away. Look at that. That's quite remarkable when you think about it, Phil, that Fassa Bortolo can only have 3 riders left in the bike race.
I don't recall it so early in the Tour.
It's quite remarkable, and even Rabobank have done very well. They lost 2 riders in the first road stage because of that dramatic crash. A lot of other teams also losing themselves 1 rider. But I think more importantly, the big men at the top end of this bike race, Lance Armstrong and his US Postal Service team, have got all 9 men still in there. But so too has the man from Germany, Jan Ulrich. This is the top of the Col du Telegraph, and you can't tell me that cycling is losing its popularity.
Nobody would try that, because in Europe it's as popular as ever. Over the top of the fabled Col du Telegraph, and we might get a glimpse of Henri de Grange here, because this is on the way down, as we might see his statue. It's a massive statue. I'm sure our cameras will show it. The founder of the Tour, which is now 100 years old. So Frank Pierrick Fedrigo of France, fittingly enough, has taken the prize at the top.
Well, he gets a bit of respite here. It's a magnificent day here, Phil, in the Alps. It really is a scorcher in the Valley Rose. 35 degrees Celsius. A lot cooler as we get up towards the summit, but Armstrong today sitting in an armchair as he allows another team to do all of the pacemaking and trying to stay in the armchair at the back of the group, wearing number 51 there. One of your favourite numbers, I think, isn't it, 51?
Well, it's not Simone's favourite number now, Paul. There has been many great winners of the Tour de France carry that number, but not this year. Our helicopter's in for a busy day today as he picks a course between the Alps and finds our riders for us. Glomser is going to go over the top in 2nd place, the Austrian who for a 2nd year this year won the Tour of Austria and has always been a strong man in the mountains, except yesterday when he rode alongside Simone in the hope he could revive him. The result was they both finished more than 10 minutes back of Richard Virenque. It's going to be a very tough Tour in many ways.
I think it was team orders for Gerrit Glomser yesterday to stay alongside the man that Seiko thought were possibly going to win the Tour de France and the Tour of Italy in the same year, but now starting 12 minutes behind. That is going to be a tall order for him to actually come back into any form of contention. Paolo Bettini, he's in fine form right now. He's the man just slipping away there, the champion of Italy. He's looking after his team leader for the day, Richard Virenque of France, the leader of the King of the Mountains and the leader of this bike race as well.
Well, we are looking now for the race for the minor points in the mountain. I'm quite sure Richard Virenque is ready for that. The clock is counting on the first man over the top, Pierrick Fedrigo. And he'll only have a very short descent. It's only about 4 or 5 kilometres, isn't it, Paul?
It's only about 4 or 5 kilometres as they go down to the bottom, and this is an acceleration at the top here coming from Richard Virenque. He'll be sprinting out for 4th place here. Renier should have just survived. But look at the time gap now. It's down already to 2 minutes and 20 seconds.
2 minutes 20 seconds is the gap for Richard Virenque and Lance Armstrong and the rest of the principals in this year's Tour de France. We are in for a superb day of racing today. Don't go away, stay with us here. So as we're looking down now at the peloton, And we've got 5 members of US Postal now setting the tempo at the front. Right on his shoulder is Jan Ullrich. Just off his back wheel there is Joshiba Bolocki. I think they are the 2 names that Lance Armstrong will be paying most attention to now. Gilberto Simoni again in trouble today, losing far too much time, as has indeed Santiago Botero, and one of his other arch rivals didn't even start today, Aitor Gonzalez. He's out. So the riders continue to really struggle on the slopes of the Col de Galibier. That big bunch at the bottom. This is now the capture of the leader of the day so far. He was the first over the top of the Telegraph, and now Pierrick Federigo has been swept up by the Armstrong group. Just one man out in front, and that is Gerrit Glomza. Attacked here, one of the Team Bianchi riders, and it looks like Aitor Garmendia. He's also a good climber, but the man who's never ever appeared in distress, and he's a great poker player when it comes to showing nothing on his face, is Jan Ullrich. Big, huge question mark on this man, because he's coming back from 2 years in the doldrums. He got himself overweight, he looked bad, he couldn't find his form, he was prosecuted for drunken driving, he was prosecuted for using a social drug, ecstasy. The whole world was against him. He straightened himself out, and I think he's going to be a big factor.
It's going to be scary, Phil, in the last week. I tell you, he looks meaner and leaner than I've ever seen him in the last few years. And his team, I think, will rise to the occasion. That was Aitor Garmendia, a man that he will count on an awful lot when we go further down the road. As we look a bit further back, that was Evgeny Petrov, who seems to be getting dropped. But we're in the final kilometre, and a lot of these riders dropped at this point of the race will have a very good chance to reintegrate the group on the descent. I'm a bit surprised to see the 2 orange jerseys here of the Euskaltel-Euskadi team, because they are men who always revel in the mountains. And on the front, Stefano Garzelli. That is remarkable. Richard Virenque is moving up there in the yellow jersey a little further back, but Garzelli is certainly riding better. Let's not forget he came into the Giro d'Italia. Oh, there's a move there. This is Mancebo.
The quiet man of the world, Garzelli. We keep on forgetting about him. He's won the Tour of Italy in the past. He finished 2nd this year. He's not suffering like Simoni. In fact, he's going to kick again here. They've blown away the King of the Mountains leader, the yellow jersey Virenque, and Garzelli gets the top first. Mancebo 2nd. The yellow jersey there only goes over in about 4th or 5th place. Well, that is it. Moreau has gone over the top as well. There was a lot of riders sitting behind US Postal there, Paul, who were hiding a lot of energy. I still wonder about Lance Armstrong at the moment.
Just saving their energies, just waiting to see if there are any chinks in the armour. And I could see the teammates there of Armstrong at the back end of that group. But that was a serious attack there coming from Stefano Garzelli. It just goes to show Garzelli's different form to that of Gilberto Simoni. Simoni rode the whole season and rode to peak form during the month of May when he won the Giro d'Italia. But Stefano Garzelli rode into form during the Giro d'Italy, and now he's in great form, I would have to say, Phil, when he comes to the final week of the Tour de France. This is Simoni. He's lost himself about a minute at the summit, and I have a feeling as we look further back, these are the boys who've done big work for Armstrong. Floyd Landis from San Diego. He'll go over the summit here with the 2 chasing Seiko riders, and with a bit of a luck and a rapid descent, he should reintegrate the group on the descent.
I mean, it's not too much to lose. That's been very, very good piece of riding. And George Hincapie too, I think, will rejoin there. And look at the sprint again now. Garzelli coming with a terrific kick. Man who's had 16 wins in his career. He's 30 years of age now, Stefano Garzelli. But he clearly has not been tired out by the Tour of Italy. He was almost going so fast over the top, he nearly didn't get round the corner there.
He nearly didn't get round the corner, but it's great to see him coming back. He's a huge battler as well, a man who had a fracas with the rules and regulations, because he was brought into doubt when he was leading the Tour of Italy last year, finding himself positive for an outdated drug called probenecid. 12 months out of the sport and 2nd in the Tour of Italy. Not a bad comeback. Rapid descent here right now. We're looking at these riders are not in fact insisting with their acceleration here, Phil, because they're cruising off the slopes of the Galibier at around about 65-70 kilometers an hour.
Well, they're on the way down the Col de Galibier, but the mountains are far from behind them for this day. They still have to climb up to the biggest of them all as far as awards go, Alpe d'Huez. We'll take a quick break here on OLN. The beauty of the Alps today, as well as the pain and the pressure of riding in the Tour de France. because we're now looking at the two riders out front. Mikel Azalosa behind, a winner this year of the Jacobs Creek Tour Down Under in South Australia. His first and only big win of his career. Didier Roos here, twice the champion of France and currently that champion as well. Good pace-making by these two. They're getting away from the bunch at the moment on the Valley Road. They're scarpering towards Bourg d'Oisans. Then they'll go left in that village, which is packed with tens of thousands of people, and they can't afford to slow down on the Alpe, Paul, because the people will keep them up.
It's actually remarkable. I remember riding to the summit of the Alpe d'Huez one time, Phil, and I was way off the back of the race. But in fact, riding through the last 2 kilometers, it's not quite the same nowadays because the riders are protected with barriers. It was a wall of people and a wall of noise, and I hardly felt myself pedal over the last 2 kilometers. It is really quite a remarkable place to come to.
The peloton getting stronger and bigger by the minute. The great news is that Michael Rogers from Canberra in Australia, the youngster in the race, is back in this group. He's done a lovely chase. He's bridged over 2+ minutes to get down there. There's life on the lake here. The lake here at Chambon. And, well, that water must look so inviting to these riders because they're racing along on its shoulders right now. But, of course, they're racing to Bourg d'Oisans, steadily downhill for the moment. Chance for a few deep breaths. And it is getting bigger, that peloton. Looks to be about 50.
There's a crash. Someone's gone down right at the front end of the main field. There's a touch of wheels.
Well, that's a US Postal rider who's gone.
Heras has gone down. He had the problem. I think they just touched wheels there. He's back up and running very quickly. The team mechanic is right up alongside him. 2 riders from US Postal, the riders there, Phil, touched wheels and went down very rapid. I don't think there was anything wrong with Roberto Heras at all. Let's have a look at it again from the helicopter.
Well, you need
it was
good
right
eyes here,
at the
Paul.
front end of the main field. They just touched on the right-hand side there.
Yep. Now, no idea what happened there at all. There was fanning of the riders. 2 US Postal riders involved in their own crash situation there. Heras left on the roadside to fix his bike. It won't be a crucial problem at the moment because the peloton won't attack. There's a little unwritten rule and they'll wait for him to, well, they won't wait, but they'll allow him back in if he can come up, and I think he can.
Well, he'll come back because the only team setting the pace on the front were his own teammates right now. They have all shut down completely. They'll allow him to come back into the pack, but let's hope that hasn't left too much of an injury on Roberto Heras, who for the most part of today has had a very good ride in the event, because maybe they're holding back to try and use Roberto Heras as the secret weapon when we attack on the final climb of the day.
Well, they certainly don't want to see too many shocks like that, because the situation at the moment, these 2 riders are going clear. The gap is nearly 1 3/4 minutes, and they will be unaware, of course, of the crash behind with Heras. Nasty shock, but I think that's all it was. It looked to me as though he was back on his bike pretty quickly. Freewheeling style now of Didier Roos, just keeping the speed around 50-55 kilometers an hour.
I wonder if it was Lance Armstrong, in fact, who was involved in that crash, because the other rider did not do anything at all or hesitate to wait for Roberto Heras, and it could have been Armstrong. It was so difficult to see from that altitude. But in fact, race radio are suggesting it might have been Armstrong, and the way that he actually reacted there, Phil, I think it could have been.
Well, it was very close to the front, and Armstrong, but it wasn't at the front, and Armstrong was sitting behind the teammates, 4th or 5th in line, and that's where it seemed to happen. I agree.
And Heras has always been on the tail of Armstrong for the whole of today. This is the Barrage du Chambon, or the Dam of Chambon. It's a hydroelectric scheme, and it really is a remarkable sight here. But I wonder if there is a little bit of panic in the US Postal Service camp with that incident there. Roberto Heras and possibly Lance Armstrong involved in that little accident just on the side of the road there.
Well, from the helicopter, it wasn't too clear what happened, but certainly Lance Armstrong appeared to be at least delayed, and Heras was certainly on the ground. Just look at the massive, massive crowd here now. The first 2 riders onto the slopes of Alpe d'Huez, and this is going to be the noisiest corridor as they continue the climb now side by side. They will try to help each other now to hold off the field. They've gone on to the climb, Paul, with a lead of 2.5 minutes.
Well, Phil, this crowd is phenomenal.
So,
it is unbelievable.
Thanks, Gary, and hello.
Hold on, Phil. This is unbelievable right now as we look at the crowds here. They're absolutely remarkable. This is the biggest crowd we've ever seen over the years here at the Alpe d'Huez. We're 13.8 kilometers from the summit right now. These two men escaped around about 40 kilometers ago. They've had a hard chase down the 40-kilometer valley descent, but right now the race has kicked up into their faces, almost banging them over the head as the race referee, and in fact the race organizer there, Jean-Marie Leblanc, looks back to see what sort of development is having behind. He wants to keep the race clear. He wants to keep the race wide. He wants to keep the race open because he knows there will be a huge battle. It's 2 minutes and 20 seconds right now, the difference between the two leaders right now and, of course, the men who are rolling along behind with the yellow jersey, the big favourites of the Tour de France, looking for a massive showdown. Vironk is there, the leader of the bike race. So is Lance Armstrong, so is Christophe Moreau, so is Gilberto Simoni and David Miller of the United Kingdom.
Just looking at the face here of Mikel Astaloza, he's made a brave move away from the giant Col de Galibier. He's got to the slopes with Didier Roos, but here comes the cavalry. The US Postal Boys are heading the race now. They've got 6 men down there, and the 5 men are working for one. They want to launch Lance Armstrong into the attack. 2 years ago, Lance Armstrong wasted no time before the attack.
They're putting the pressure on right now. Armstrong has sent his men to the front. This is Roberto Heras. He's been kept in arrears all day, Phil. He's been sitting behind Armstrong. He's been taking the pace from his leader, Armstrong, and right now they want to do something special. At the back, these boys have done the job. This man has disappeared. Georgi Hincapie has set an unbelievable pace. He's out of it right now. He's just going to cruise to the summit. They've hit him hard in the first kilometre.
But this is such a typical move by the rider from US Postal. He's told his boys, flat out, peel off and get out of my way. Armstrong sitting third wheel here and just waiting for the move. Richard Vironk, the man who won yesterday, rapidly losing ground. If he loses 2.5 minutes, Armstrong will be in the lead.
Armstrong has got 3 very good climbers around him: Manuel Beltran, Roberto Heras and his old teammate Chechu Rubiera. The race is blowing apart. Rubiera looks like he's taking over the pace-making now. Armstrong, cool as a cucumber, right on his shoulder there. Alexander Vinokourov. This is the damage that's being done at the back.
Well, David Miller got into this group after a great descent of the Col de Galibier. He's just ahead of his teammate here. Number 66 is David Moncoutier. Miller just ahead of him, but already under pressure. Alexander Vinokourov there in the centre of our picture is defying the attack here by Rubiera and Lance Armstrong. Richard Vironk trying to recover here from the early acceleration. The big 2 men we have yet to identify, and that is Joshiba Bolocki and Jan Ullrich, but they will have been shocked by this move.
They will have been surprised by the viciousness of the attack in the first kilometre of the ascent. Look at that though, Phil, not too far behind. The man who has been riding this broken collarbone throughout the Tour de France, Tyler Hamilton, is not far off the lead.
I cannot believe that Tyler Hamilton, who crashed on stage 1, he fractured his collarbone in 2 places. The doctors keep taking x-rays to make sure he's not doing long-term damage. Is right there at the head of this race. It is totally incredible. Now, Jan Ullrich, he's just gone through our picture to the right, but that wasn't him, I don't think. I think that was probably Aitor Garmendia who just went down there. We're looking now for the number of the yellow jersey. There he is, Richard Vironk. It'll take a while for our motorbikes with the cameras to get to the leaders. There is 500,000 people on the roads of Alpe d'Huez today.
Armstrong has got his faithful lieutenants around him. Chechu Rubiera is the man on the front right now, still in arrears there. To the right-hand side was Roberto Heras. Christophe Moreau is there in the green and white jersey of France. And again, they kick deep. They're looking for something special. Jan Ullrich is not anywhere there, Phil. Tyler Hamilton accelerates to get onto the wheel of Armstrong's train, but I haven't seen Jan Ullrich yet, and that's why they've gone hard. Armstrong is not really worried about Richard Vironk. He's got a 2-minute 37-second advantage in the overall classification, but Armstrong knows this man is not a long-term threat. The man he's worried about, the man he wants to put time between himself and today, is Jan Ullrich, and Ullrich for the moment is not there.
But sat there in 4th wheel is Tyler Hamilton, who is in so much pain when he steps out of the bicycle because his right collarbone is still broken in 2 places. It is unbelievable he can ride even these slopes alongside a man like Armstrong.
This is guts, this is courage. This man stayed in the Tour de France. We asked him on many occasions, why are you doing it? Is it because it's the Tour de France? He said, no, I've got phenomenal form this year. I want to ride well. I want to finish the Tour de France. I cannot believe what he's done, Phil. He crashed on day 1, a double fracture to the clavicule, and he's still in the bike race, and he's still accelerating. accelerating. He's still looking comfortable. He's now on the wheel of his former team captain and team leader, Lance Armstrong, and he doesn't look like he's suffering too much.
They're friends off the bike, and that's unusual. When you leave the team of Lance Armstrong, you don't stay friends either, but they are friends, and now they're going to have to fight each other on Alpe d'Huez. And I see also that Iban Mayo, the great hope from Spain, has also latched on in that orange jersey. Missing, though, Yoshiba Bolocki and Jan Ullrich and all of the fancied men. And this in itself is amazing. Number 18 here, Marcus Serrano, a good climber, but not in the class of those riders going clear. The yellow jersey of Richard Virenque and Michael Rogers of Australia on the right there. This young man who finished 4th yesterday and is flying the flag for Australia, still in amongst the second file of riders on this massive climb, which is absolutely crowded with people, and this will continue now for the next 9 miles or 14 kilometers to the summit. Looking at Heras here, Heras just riding so strongly on the front. He was on the floor not 5 miles back. He's now riding to try and launch his team leader to the front. That looks like it might be Jan Ullrich just ahead. This is David Moncoutier here. The yellow jersey of Richard Virenque. I think Virenque riding sensibly. He couldn't go with that initial surge, but he's not lost his position yet.
Phil, a couple of years ago when the race came here and Armstrong won, Richard Virenque lost himself 2.5 minutes, but he didn't have the yellow jersey on his shoulder. This is the front of the race. The attack's coming right now. Astroloza trying to get rid of the French national champion Didier Roux in second position there, wearing number 181, the leader of the Brioche La Boulangère team. But the gap now is actually inside of 50 seconds. Here is big Jan Ullrich. He's alongside Stefano Garzelli.
Not too sure where he is on the actual road here at the moment, though. We'll have to find out as we pick up all the rest. The head of the race is Mikel Astolosa and Didier Roux. Astolosa trying to get rid of Didier Roux at the moment. This is the next group on the road. Roberto Heras, Armstrong, Hamilton, Mayo, Vinokurov. Here comes Bolocki, and just behind him Lyseca. Look further down now. There's no sign of Ullrich. He must be much further down the mountain here. There he is now, led by Garzelli, trying to get back into the race. This is clearly now a big fight, because there was initial surge, but it has come back and slowed down. These boys might well close in. There's the attack, but was it good enough? Because the race is not over yet. Stay with us on OLN. Oh, here on the climb of Alpe d'Huez on stage 8 of the Tour de France. Those two riders are still there, Didier Roux and Astoloa, but there is a lot of attacking behind, and now Yoshiba Bolocki is having an attack himself as well. This is an amazing climb. We thought that maybe Heras had started the move, but it hasn't proved to be so. Well, Paul, now it's up to Lance Armstrong. Heras was the man who started all the work at the bottom of the climb.
Well,
there's
Heras
the attack.
Heras is there, and Armstrong has seen the attack coming from Yoshiba Bolocki. The Once riders have been sitting in the wings all day. They've been sitting there in great numbers. They've been waiting to come up with this attack, and right now Yoshiba Bolocki has gone, put the hammer down. Armstrong is going to ask a lot of Roberto Heras this afternoon, but Roberto Heras has been sitting in the wings, just waiting to try and turn up the screws when he could. This is a great and brave move by Yoshiba Bolocki, second in the Tour de France last year. Hamilton is in this group, and the two riders from Euskaltel-Euskadi are also a major threat.
Yoshiba Bolocki said this morning he's ridden the Tour 3 times, he's finished third twice. Last year he finished second to Lance Armstrong. He says, if I can't win it this year, I shall reassess my chances in the future, and I may never ride the race again. So this is a big attack for him.
It's a huge attack. He wants to attack Armstrong anywhere that he can, but the damage is doing, the damage of the attack is incredible. He's caught the two leaders. He's number 1 on the road right now.
This is a superb attack by Yoshiba Bolocki, the man who could haunt Lance Armstrong, second to him last year. If he wins this stage, if he drops Lance Armstrong, he'll be one of the first men to do that for a few years.
He will be one of the first men to put Armstrong into difficulty. Armstrong didn't look like he was panicking there right now. He'd allowed the attack to develop. He was using his teammate Roberto Heras to the maximum of his advantage. He's got Heras up there alongside him. Iban Mayo is very comfortable. Tyler Hamilton is looking great. This man is going to ride high into the overall classification at the end of today. Armstrong is just sitting and waiting.
Well, look at the face to the right of Armstrong, Tyler Hamilton here. He's pulling out the performance of a lifetime on Alpe d'Huez. Where is the best place to do that in the Tour de France? It is right here. We're climbing it now for the 23rd time in this race. it has never failed to produce a dramatic finish. This rider here has said he doesn't want to ever finish second again in the Tour de France. He wants to win it. We didn't believe he had the legs to attack Armstrong. He has proved us wrong.
At 10 kilometres to go, Richard Virenque has already lost 2 minutes on the group containing Lance Armstrong. He's only got 37 seconds left to keep himself in the yellow jersey. He's going to lose it. I thought he'd keep hold of it. He's on the eve of Bastille Day, the 14 Juillet. The yellow jersey of Richard Virenque has popped, but right now Armstrong is being put under threat by Yoshiba Bolocki. He needs to pull him back before the summit.
Let's not forget too, our camera's staying with the likely projected final winner of the Tour de France, but there are still 2 riders leading the day in Astaloza and Didier Roos. Oh, sorry, they've already been passed by. It's all happening so fast on this climb. We're looking at Armstrong. I am beginning to think, Paul, I don't believe Armstrong is going as well as we thought, because this man is too proud to allow an attack.
He's too proud to allow an attack from Yoshiba Bolocki. He's always reacted to them in the past. This is the leader of the bike race. This is Richard Virenque. He's way down the course right now. He's being joined there by one of Jan Ullrich's teammates who's coming up alongside him. This, in fact, is Felix Garcia Casas. But Bolocki has now got a 12-second advantage over Armstrong. That is not a major panic. And in fact, Armstrong himself, Race Radio is telling me, Phil, has taken up the pacemaking himself.
He's got no choice now. He's used all of his teammates up. They're all due to fall behind. But look at Tyler Hamilton hanging on to the coattail of Armstrong as he continues with his broken collarbone. If he jumps out of the saddle, you'll see his face wince with pain. The doctors take him away at night, they examine him and tell him if he is doing any long-term damage. And he comes out of those examinations smiling.
Comes out of his examination smiling. He's got a joke for everybody. He's raised the morale of the team. I cannot believe the way he's sitting here on the shoulder of Lance Armstrong. And if you get a glimpse at his jersey there, which is open to try and keep him cool, he's got a bandage right across his broken clavicule, which is quite remarkable. Further down the road, though, this is Roberto Heras. He will try and ride himself back up to Armstrong to help him. But I think your question here, Phil, has been answered. Armstrong is slowly pulling himself back to the attack here of Yoshiba Bolocki.
Well, Yoshiba Bolocki is on the attack, and it's up to the others and Armstrong now to bring him back. Well, this is a superb move by Bolocki, and hats off to him, because Armstrong is now being brought out to do it all. But the man on his back wheel, Tyler Hamilton, sits there now. This is a dramatic chase. It looks like the bridge is prominent. Armstrong, the extra impetus, now he's taken over. He is doing the reparation of the damage himself. He is coming back to Yoshiba Bolocki. Bolocki has seen him coming. He's going to make him race all the way to his shoulder. This is superb. What a battle on the mountain. Probably one of the best we've ever seen. Armstrong at this stage 2 years ago was dictating the race. He was on his own. It was up to the rest to chase him down. But now he has had to come back, and he's not alone. Tyler Hamilton is there with him, and Iban Mayo is tacked in on the back as well. This is superb racing. We now have 4 riders together. Paul, this is unbelievable. Armstrong won't remember this before, as the catch, and comes the attack. Iban Mayo. Well, the great cyclist Pedro Delgado, who won the Tour de France in 1988, has said to us yesterday, Mayo, he won't win the Tour de France. He might try for a stage win. I think he's found his legs. We've always talked about this man as a star of the future.
He's a star of the future, that's for certain. Armstrong is not too worried about him.
He won't react to Mayo just yet.
Not a problem. Mayo is a long way down in the overall classification, Phil. He's 6 minutes and 11 seconds down on Lance Armstrong. Armstrong was more worried about the tack coming from Yoshiba Bolocki. But what really amazes me is Tyler Hamilton. This boy is doing an unbelievable job. He's staying there in contact with the big guns of the Tour de France. And there's another move by Bolocki. Bolocki is trying again to get rid of Armstrong. Armstrong will react to this one, though. Now he has to react to every move that comes. Look at the time gap. This is the gap now between Iban Mayo and Armstrong. It's 10 seconds. It's 2 minutes and 22 seconds back to the group of Richard Virenque, and he does not. Oh, Hamilton's gone.
I don't believe it. Hamilton has gone this time. He's attacking Lance Armstrong. It hasn't worked. Armstrong's reacted. Bolocki also going. Once you have one attack, you have another. We've never seen a climb like this before.
We've never seen anybody attacking the leader quite as repetitive as this.
They believe he's vulnerable. They
do.
Actually believe Armstrong can be beaten.
The only way he can be beaten is if several riders attack him consistently over and over again. And that's what they've decided to do. That's what the big leaders of the Tour de France say that they will do to try and dislodge Armstrong from the top. You don't catch him out like that, though. And in fact, there's another rider coming forward here. It looks like David Echavarria of the Euskaltel-Euskadi team.
What a superb piece of cycling we are witnessing here as they attack and counter-attack. Well, as the riders come round yet another of these numbered virages or corners on Alpe d'Huez, these are 5 men locked together, so evenly balanced on the climb to the finish. We won't miss very much. It's Hamilton now as we take a break. Alpe d'Huez, a mountain we've seen 23 times, but never have we seen attacks like this. We are looking at Iban Mayo now, flying up this mountain as if it was a flat downhill section. I don't believe what I'm seeing here. This man is driving on. Federico Echeve of Spain has won up here, and this could be the next man. This is a massive crowd, Paul, and this man is just going up this hill as if the road is flat.
Nobody can stay with this guy. You look at the way he's pedaling right now. His speed is phenomenal. He really is opening up a gap over Lance Armstrong. It's 35 seconds to Armstrong. The yellow jersey of Richard Virenque I don't think will stay on his shoulders this afternoon. Yoshiba Beloki digging deep right now. He's trying to get rid of Armstrong. Armstrong has responded to every attack, and I cannot keep a count of how many times he's been attacked so far.
Well, just look now as we see Beloki, and this has got to be an indication Lance Armstrong is not the man he has been these past 4 years. Riders have not been able to counter any attacks he's made, especially on the slopes of Alpe d'Huez. They are going to take a lot of confidence from this. Armstrong is sitting there, though, still on the shoulder of Beloki. For the moment, because of time lost already in the opening week of the Tour, Iban Mayo cannot get the race lead, but he is gaining time. While this rider here, Richard Virenque, is losing time. He is losing the yellow jersey, and it is almost certain Lance Armstrong will be the leader tonight.
Well, it's a shame there. You see one of the riders from Euskaltel-Euskadi has reintegrated the group of Armstrong, but still Iban Mayo is leading by 44 seconds from Lance Armstrong, and the group of the yellow jersey is at 3 minutes and 6 seconds. So virtually Armstrong is now the leader on the road as one or two riders start to recover. Roberto Heras has come back, as well as Alexander Vinokourov.
Well, that's an indication that they have slowed down, because climbing back into the race here, Alexander Vinokourov and Lance Armstrong's faithful assistant, Roberto Heras. Heras, a brilliant rider in his own right, a former winner of the Tour of Spain, and he has now come back to see if he can offer any help to Lance Armstrong at this most crucial stage of the climb. The fevered crowd here, they've been standing up here for a week waiting for the arrival of this race.
I wouldn't discount Lance Armstrong too quickly, though, Phil, because all he's doing at the moment is countering the moves of the people who he sees as being dangerous in the overall classification. He's not worried at all about Iban Mayo. He knows this man can climb superbly, but he feels he's got the better of him in the long time trials that are still to come. And he starts the day 6 minutes and 11 seconds behind the American. Armstrong looking a lot more comfortable right now. He's got his faithful teammate Roberto Heras alongside him. They're both climbing themselves high up in the overall classification tonight, while even another man starts to make a comeback. This is Mancebo.
He looks a little bit laboured, but he is slowly dragging back his quarry here on the steep slopes of Alpe d'Huez. This Alpe has been climbed 23 times. It has never seen a battle like this. Well, this is Francesco Mancebo as he comes around that corner. He's about to hook up with the cream of the Tour de France. Iban Mayo is out in front of them all. We're looking at the face of Roberto Heras. He's just come back and he's still helping Lance Armstrong. Paul?
Well, I don't believe this. The time gap has crumbled to Iban Mayo, and I can see 2 orange jerseys in the group, and I wonder if Armstrong, in fact, has closed down that gap on the man who attacked. There you can see Roberto Heras, followed by Armstrong. There is Yoshiba Beloki. There is Hamilton. There are 2 orange jerseys. Maybe the other one was a return coming back from Roberto Laiseca, and it could well be that still off the front we've got the man who has launched the most vicious attack. This man who is regarded as the next future of Spanish cycling, Iban Mayo.
Iban Mayo, 25 years of age, a professional for 4 seasons now. He's had a brilliant start to the year. Ever since he turned pro, he gave a hint he could one day challenge and maybe win the Tour de France. This is an incredible scene though, because Lance Armstrong, thanks to the fact that this man has come up, that he is now, Heras has come up, he's now joined him at the front. Well, we're looking at Michael Rogers of Australia with the yellow jersey and teammate Richard Virenque. Everybody is suffering as Lance Armstrong wrestles now to regain control. From behind, we've never seen that before either, because by now Armstrong has finished off the opposition. It must be an indication that Lance is not in the condition of the previous years. And there's no doubt now, the riders around him, as somebody is going to... That's Vinokurov, I think. Alexander Vinokurov has had a move from the front. You see, they're sensing there is a chance to beat Armstrong.
They are going at him like an automatic rifle. It's bang, bang, bang. As soon as they feel they're slowing down, somebody else goes off the front end of the main group here with all of the challengers at the Tour de France. Alexander Vinokurov had felt that the tempo was slowing down a bit. This crowd is the most monumental crowd we've seen here at the Tour de France, at least since I've been coming anyway. They're all over the place and they're encouraging everybody in this 100th anniversary of the Tour de France. Armstrong has been attacked today more than he's ever been attacked before.
But it's so difficult to show you just how steep the slopes of Alpe d'Huez really are. But believe me, how these riders can sprint, recover and sprint again, I really don't know. Alexander Vinokurov, we've known him since his amateur days. He's now nearly 30 years of age. He's won big races, but he's never excelled at this event.
Well, he started the day 1 minute and 58 seconds behind Lance Armstrong in the overall classification. Armstrong has got to be a quick calculator and a cool calculator on the slopes of the Alpe d'Huez here this afternoon and make sure that he knows just exactly who is where and when they're there. Because right now, a lot of people are throwing caution to the wind, and if they want to dethrone him, this is the only way to do it, to launch attack after attack. The first man up the road has gone a long way clear, though. Iban Mayo is 1 minute and 5 seconds ahead of Alexander Vinokurov, but Vinokurov is now leading Armstrong and Heras.
And that is Roberto Heras. He fell off as they came down towards Alpe d'Huez. He remounted, as indeed did Lance Armstrong. He was dropped on the climb and Armstrong finally put in an attack, and then he's come back again, and also back now on the back, number 81, Ivan Basso. He's only got 2 teammates left of the original 9 in this race. A wholesale withdrawal of his team today through sickness. There's only 3 left in his team, and he's on his own right here.
This reminds me right now of something that the 4 great champions, Phil, who've won the Tour de France on 5 occasions, said. The 5th one was the hardest one that they won. And right now, Armstrong is being attacked by everybody. But this man is really setting the Alpe d'Huez on fire. He leads the chasers by 1 minute and 9 seconds. The man chasing him is Alexander Vinokurov. Vinokurov started the day a long way down in the overall classification, number 21 position for him, 2 minutes behind Armstrong, but they know if they want to beat the American, they've got to hit him, and hit him hard every time it goes uphill. And let's not forget, in days gone by, it was the hills that were Armstrong's terrain.
Well, we always felt if you could beat Lance Armstrong, you could not beat him one-on-one. You had to attack him and attack him till he finally cracked. He hasn't cracked yet by any manner of means, and it's not the end of the Tour de France today. Wait 2 more weeks before we make our minds up. But he is showing us, like many cyclists who appear inhuman, he is human after all.
I think a lot of riders will sit up and take note of that this afternoon as well, Phil, as we go inside of about 3 kilometres to go there, that Armstrong is a human. In fact, that was 5 kilometres to go. It's a long way to go to the summit for Iban Mayo, but look at the way he's tickling the pedals. His legs are moving around at about 85 to 90 revolutions every minute. The Aussie crowd is at the side of the road there, thinking about their man Michael Rogers, who is still not too far behind, looking after his man Richard Virenque. Second man on the road is Alexander Vinokurov. We're going to have to get the calculator out tonight to work out who is in what position in the overall classification.
Tour de France, you are looking now at an attack here by no less than Tyler Hamilton, the limping hero of the Tour de France, with his broken collarbone as well. This is how he did it. He suddenly sensed the lull in the race just outside 3 miles from the top of the climb and the finishing line. He has made his move. It's unbelievable. Well, just look at this. We've now switched to the front of the race. Iban Mayo is still ahead by about 1 minute and 18 seconds. Alexander Vinokurov of Kazakhstan is chasing him. Tyler Hamilton is trying to rid himself of the rest of this race. You can see the bandage round his shoulder, just trying to keep it in position.
Armstrong is in 4th place. He very rarely rides like this in the mountains. He normally likes to dominate. He normally likes to wipe everybody away. He's ridden a very defensive race so far in the Tour de France, and it may well be that he's not in one of his great days and he'll have to save it for the Pyrenees. But Iban Mayo is revealing to us that he is a star of the future. He has ripped up this climb right now. His legs are ticking over as if there is absolutely no effort. But Armstrong has been challenged by his men, by his rivals. Vinokurov is weaving his way through this huge tunnel of people and noise.
Iban Mayo, in his first Tour de France last year, finished a rather indistinct 88th place overall, but we know he's worth a lot more than that. This year, I think he's going to come of age. He won't take the lead today, but with 2 weeks to go, who knows? Because Armstrong is not the man of the last 4 years at the moment, and the riders will have searched that out better than any television commentator. This is now Roberto Laiseca, twice a stage winner of this race, and looking to weaken, but not chase down his teammate, who is running away to the victory just now. Go, Lance, go, says the clown on the left. Well, he's going, but not as well as he normally does.
He certainly isn't. The one thing that Armstrong did over the summit of the Col du Galibier was put the pressure on, had his team set a very hard tempo. The reason they did that was to get rid of Jan Ullrich, but they've not got rid of Yoshiba Belocchi. Belocchi feels today may well be the big day for him to try and put Armstrong into difficulty. They've pulled back Tyler Hamilton in 3rd position there in the red and white jersey. Hamilton has got a double fracture of the clavicule, but he's still hanging good in the front end of the Tour de France, which is absolutely remarkable. We're inside of 4 kilometers right now for Alexander Vinokurov. The race was toughened up by US Postal Service to see how the challenge were going to be to Lance Armstrong, but maybe Lance Armstrong himself is actually paying for all of the work that has been done by his team.
But look at his face. Just look at Lance's face. He still is reacting. If he is suffering, he's keeping it very much a secret. Further down the slopes, the new young Australian on the left, in his first Tour de France, now told to look after the fallen race leader here in Richard Virenque. Michael Rogers from Canberra on the left is beginning to look like Australia's first ever future winner of the Tour de France.
First time he's been here, Phil, just 23 years of age. He started the day in 15th place in the overall classification, and on these big mountain passes he will have learned an awful lot about his body. He'll have learned an awful lot about Iban Mayo as well, who is leading this race at the moment by 1 minute and 30 seconds from Alexander Vinokurov. He's not going to take the overall classification at all because he started the day more than 6 minutes behind Armstrong, but he has shown us that he is an unbelievable climber. I think when this team Euskaltel-Euskadi came, they've very often been brought into the Tour de France as a wild card, and the reason they're a wild card is because they will go out on the attacks and light up the mountain stages. Another move, Hamilton accelerated. The man recovering right now, Jan Ullrich, has ridden an unbelievable race here, Phil. He's trying to ride himself back up to the wheel of Lance Armstrong. Well, this is remarkable. The man at the front of the race, Iban Mayo, now has a 1 minute 45 second advantage over Alexander Vinokurov, who's almost a minute in front of Lance Armstrong. He started the day 1 minute 58 behind Armstrong. Armstrong's going to have to turn the gas up over the last 2 Ks.
Hamilton tried, just nudged a little then. Armstrong was on him straight away. Look at the face here. Jan Ullrich has never finished worse than second. Here goes Belocchi. Another desperate move. Armstrong not a sign on his face of any effort. He's out of the saddle and he's straight onto the slipstream of Belocchi.
And Hamilton's gone. Hamilton's been put in difficulty this time by that acceleration, but he's been brave. He's attacked, but right now he will ride himself back up to Lance Armstrong if he can, as we go to 2 kilometers from the summit. This man is going through the part where the crowd is at its wildest. They're encouraging a man from Spain, from Euskaltel-Euskadi, to get himself the victory. Iban Mayo is the new kid on the block this year. He had hardly any wins when he went to the Tour of Pays Basque, and then he really opened up his account.
Yes, the race in Spain, and he cleaned up in that one. I think he won 4 stages and the overall classification. But now this is the rider going up the mountain in 2nd place, Alexander Vinokurov here, as he was hoping to be in the defence for his team leader, Santiago Botero. Botero didn't make it through the Alps yesterday. He lost 10 minutes.
Well, Hamilton has recovered there. He's got himself back onto this very elite group of 4 riders. Armstrong on the left-hand side has been attacked more than I've ever seen him be attacked in the mountains before. He's 1:49. He's 2 minutes and 1 second behind the leader, Iban Mayo, but they're actually starting to pull back to Alexander Vinokourov. In the group with Belocchi and Zubeldia is Tyler Hamilton, who has to be given the title of the most courageous man at the Tour de France.
And behind, Michael Rogers rides alongside Richard Virenque, the deposed race leader, in 7th and 8th position. Here is Jan Ullrich, still struggling to limit his losses, but at 3 minutes 17, he'll have to think of a likely possible 3rd or 4th in Paris. He won't get much better than that now.
Well, he'll recover and he'll progress as the race goes on, but this is why Armstrong had his team make the ascent of the Col du Galibier difficult, because he wanted to put this man, Jan Ullrich, into difficulty. He was worried about the progression that Ullrich had made over the first week of the Tour de France and the fact that Ullrich had lost no time at all, especially on the Col de la Ramaz. We're inside of Uez now, and very shortly this man will be able to see the final kilometre. He's picking up the pace all of the time. He has shown not 1 ounce of fatigue.
Up amongst the chalets of Alpe d'Huez now. The first time we came here, 1952, when the great Italian legend Fausto Coppi won. This has been one of the most magnificent climbs today. The riders have hit each other at every opportunity. These 4 have survived, and Lance Armstrong has been frankly magnificent. If he is having a bad day, well, he's made a pretty good job of it.
A bit further down the road here, you can just see Francisco Mancebo and, of course, Roberto Laiseca. The French hero, Christophe Moreau, he's a long way back, but battling to stay in contention. He's pulling himself up to the rear end of the cars, and I think he's about to make contact with Jan Ullrich. Ullrich just around the corner there, really today trying to keep himself in contact at the front end of the Tour de France. But what a glorious sight for a man who lives to climb. Iban Mayo sees the sign indicating he's at the final kilometre of the Alpe d'Huez.
1 kilometre, 1,000 metres, and it doesn't get much easier. There's a slight plateau, and then you climb gently up to the finish. There's a sharp left-hand turn just before the line. This has been a superb climb by this man. He's made it look so easy. He possibly knew that Armstrong, being hit by the other riders, would not counter his move, because so far he's lost just a little bit too much time, but he's gaining time now, and from tomorrow his number will be on Lance Armstrong's handlebars as a marked man.
He will be a marked man. He's always been a marked man. He lost all of his time in the team time trial when his team did not really perform. They finished a long way down the overall classification, but this is a phenomenal performance. He's going to run out more than 2 minutes ahead of Lance Armstrong, and as a true professional, he's going to do up the jersey before he gets into the finishing straight. This will lose him a couple of seconds, but gain him a lot of publicity.
It's a big win for this team from the Basque-speaking area of northern Spain. This is the wonderful moment when you come alone to the summit of Alpe d'Huez. He's not the first Spanish rider to win here, but he's going to make sure everybody sees him. Time at this minute is not important when you're winning at the stage at Alpe d'Huez. It's all about the success. The 23rd time that the race has come to this mountain, and now we have this man, Iban Mayo, making the victory. The first Spaniard was Echeverri, and that was a few years ago. So up to the line now, nearly 6 hours today in the saddle. He's going to make the most of this. It always seems a long way to the finish. The other riders, though, are going to have to sprint it out. But the Spanish will enjoy this moment, and in particularly those who come from the Basque country. They love their sport of cycling. This man now is an absolute hero back home.
An absolute hero. The man who's attacking, though, here further down the slopes is Alexander Vinokourov. He's inside the last kilometre as well, but I tell you one thing, he's not got very much more than about 20 seconds advantage over the group containing Armstrong, Belocchi, Zubeldia and Tyler Hamilton. But it's been a glorious day for Euskaltel Euskadi. They have done what they wanted to do at the Tour de France, shine in the mountains. One day in the future, though, Phil, Iban Mayo is going to come back here to the Tour de France and think about overall victory. The group of Lance Armstrong has swelled over the last few kilometres. Mancebo has come back, so has Ivan Basso, number 81 on the right-hand side. And just getting onto the back end of the group there is the man Roberto Laiseca. What a great ride by him, and Zubeldia is there too.
And Euskaltel Euskadi with 3 men, 1 finish, 2 here. They've won the team of the day. That might well put them in the lead in the team race, and that is going to complete a wonderful day. But let's forget, this Tour de France has 2 more weeks to run to Paris. There'll be plenty more stories to tell yet. Alexander Vinokurov started off with his second win in the first big race of the year from Paris down to Nice. He scored in the World Cup Classic Amstel Gold Race in Holland. That's their biggest one-day race. And now he's coming home in second place here. This is a good ride by Alexander Vinokurov. He could yet be a man for a place in Paris in 2 weeks. Looks very, very determined. Waited till they'd all attacked one another, chose his moment and went for it. He'd left it too late to catch Mayo. But look at the clock too, these are big time gaps. Mayo is moving up the overall classification tonight. Vinokurov heading up as the clock counts him down.
Well, it's a good move by Vinokurov. He's got himself an advantage over Armstrong. He's not done enough to get himself into the yellow jersey this evening because he started the day 1 minute and 58 seconds behind Lance Armstrong. And in fact, we're getting news that the yellow jersey is 8 minutes behind the leading riders. Armstrong and Yoshiba Baloki are in the finishing straight right now. Armstrong lining himself up in second place. 6
riders aren't supposed to come together on a climb like this, and Armstrong is determined now to take the 3rd place, and this is for the yellow jersey as well. He may have been beaten on the climb, but he will be the leader of the Tour de France. The American, and that's a matter of honour, I think, has taken 3rd place at about 2 minutes and 13 seconds. Here is Jan Ullrich still to finish. So Armstrong will pull on the yellow jersey tonight. That is what everybody expected. What everybody expected was that Armstrong would not be attacked like he has been.
Well, I didn't expect Richard Virenque actually to lose the yellow jersey on a day like this. He's a Frenchman the day before Bastille Day. I thought he might have recovered from that long escapade yesterday, but he's blown completely on the slopes of the Alpe d'Huez because of the work done by men like Roberto Heras and the whole of the US Postal Service team. Armstrong today, Phil, I don't think was too worried about the climbers. He was worried about one man. He toughened the race up for one reason, to get rid of Jan Ullrich. He was worried about the big German getting stronger as the race progressed, and he's now put a big time gap between himself and the German rider.
Yes, he's going to be very happy with this. This man is also a little bit of a hero today. He crashed with Lance Armstrong, Roberto Heras on the right, and he's just going to be pipped on the line as Ullrich comes onto the line. So Ullrich crosses the line about 3 minutes 43 down as they continue to race home now towards the finish. But the man who's won the day, Iban Mayo, what a wonderful day for him on top of Alpe d'Huez. Just in time to see the arrival of the former race leader of the Tour de France here on OLN. It is Richard Virenque. He doesn't look too disappointed. He's still the king of the mountains. In that respect, he scored well today until the final climb of Alpe d'Huez. He thanks his young man from Australia, Michael Rogers, for staying with him on the final climb as he crosses the line now out of the yellow jersey. So this is the stage result, sponsored by Pacific Life, and it is Iban Mayo winning by 1 minute and 45 over Vinokurov, 2:12 on Lance Armstrong. A sprinter principle there as he finishes ahead of Mancebo, Zubeldia, Baloki, Tyler Hamilton, magnificent. In 7th and same time as Lance, Ivan Basso, Robert Leiseca. This was a great battle of the Alpe, and one we'll talk about for years to come. Well, what a wonderful day this was, the Battle of the Alpe d'Huez. A Spanish rider's win. Only Federico Echever's ever won up here before. Euskaltel Euskadi, they were given a wild card place because of this rider, Iban Mayo, and he hasn't let the organisation down. He was superb today to get the stage win. Right, well, that's the stage winner. But what about the race leader? His name's familiar. Frankie Andreu is now talking to Lance Armstrong.
Lance, very hard day this final climb. Are you surprised at the tenacity that the riders attacked you on the Alpe d'Huez?
Well, they said they were going to attack, so I guess I shouldn't be surprised. It was a hard day. Definitely a hard day. I mean, long, hot. The Galibier was, you know, it's a tough climb just to get over in a training ride. So to race over it, had a little problem. I thought I was coming off on the Galibier. I just couldn't hold the wheel. So on the descent, one of the corners, I came out and I said, "What's that noise?" I looked down and the back brake had been rubbing for almost 200 kilometers. So I said, "Well, I have good news and bad news, Johan. The bad news is the brake has been rubbing. The good news is I figured that out. But I think I wasn't super today. I mean, I tried to hold the wheel, and hell, they were attacking like mad, and you know, we'll see.
Seconds ahead of Yoshiba Bolocki. A minute 10 on the great stage winner in Iban Mayo. A minute 17 on Vinokurov. He's up to 4th. And Francisco Mancebo yo-yoed on and off the back, but stayed there in 5th. Tyler Hamilton, simply brilliant. He's there now in 6th place. Heras fell off and is still in 7th. Ulrich, still only 2:10 behind, sits in 8th. Ivan Basso 9th. And Jörg Jaks continues to surprise as he holds on to 10th. And here he comes, Lance Armstrong. Well, his own confession, it wasn't a super day, but he's a superman who can resist everything. He is a leader of the Tour de France. I think this is his 47th yellow jersey in his race history in the Tour de France, and he's won the race, of course, already 4 times. His lead is not great, it's 40 seconds, but you have to start somewhere on the road to victory in Paris. This is going to be a superb day as we wave au revoir to the Alps with Lance Armstrong in the yellow jersey. Hi again, everybody. Welcome back to our live coverage. Phil Liggett with Paul Sherwin. Paul, Lance has done it so far. 40 seconds, not a lot.
40 seconds, but what an unbelievable battle yesterday on the slopes of the Alpe d'Huez. I think he controlled everything to perfection, but the boys now think that he's got a few signs of weakness, so they'll attack again. Giant
Col de Glibia yesterday. It's the second highest climb here in these Alpine mountains. After the Col du Lotteret, we go on to the Col du Lisoire. The riders started today from Bourg-Guazon, Paul.
Well, Bourg-Guazon, this is actually exactly the same course that they rode yesterday, but in the reverse distance to go over the Col de Lotteret, dropping down into Briançon, and then the fabled climb of the Col d'Izoard, 2,300 metres. It's a long way from the finish, but because of the difficulty of the opening 100 kilometres, it's an ideal course for people to go out on the attack. This climb at the end, by the way, the small Côte d'Apollinaire, is one that many riders are somewhat worried about. And then it's a fairly flat downhill run in towards the finish line in Gap. 184 kilometres in total and 115 miles.
Well, Bourg-Guazon, well known for everybody who's climbed the Alp. It's the village that nestles at the bottom. This will be the 16th time that we've gone down the mountain and started away from Bourg, heading to Gap in the next valley along the road. 184 kilometres. And look at the bottom there. We've now covered just over halfway of the Tour de France, but that is in kilometres, not in days. We still have the best part of 2 weeks to go. Right, bring you up to date straight away now with the action. There was attacking riding right from the gun. 179 riders rolling away here. The start given, as always, by the Directeur de la Tour de France, and that is Jean-Marie Leblanc. Just listen to this. Wait for it. Yeah, he's telling the riders to get a move on straight away. I think he was joking, but you know, this is the last day in the mountains. Lance Armstrong immediately to the fore with his team all around him, but he was under attack right from the word go. Some 16 riders getting away, and by the top of the Col de Lotteret, after 38 kilometres, it was Danilo De Luca going over ahead of Ivan Parra and Aitor Garmendia. There's the results for you. No sign of the current king of the mountains, Richard Virenque. He's back in the main field. Look at the overall situation. Good reading if your name is Armstrong in looking for a 5th Tour win. 40 seconds, that's all over Yoshiba Bolocki. Iban Mayo, the winner on Alpe d'Huez, is now 3rd. Vinokurov 2nd on Alpe d'Huez, is up to 4th. And a good ride too from Ibanesto's Francisco Mancebo. Tyler Hamilton, what can you say? A man riding with his fractured collarbone is still in this race, less than 2 minutes behind in 6th place. Heras, riding with a bandage on his knee after yesterday's fall, is 7th. Jan Ullrich is 8th and completing the top 10 and riding extremely well and currently in the leading group, Jörg Jaks. Best of the French is Christophe Moreau in 14th position. Garzelli has been in trouble today a little bit. He's lying 17th. Davy Miller tried to get into a breakaway and it failed. He is 22nd, and Michael Bogart there in 26th. Well, looking down, Paul, this has not been an easy day. Although they run away from the Alps, it's a long way to the finish. Armstrong has had to really monitor the troops today.
Well, he's had to rally the boys round very early on and put them on the front end of the main field because there's some serious attacks happening. And it's rather a difficult stage too, because the stage actually begins with a 38-kilometre uphill ride to the summit of the Col de Lauterre, and that's where all the early attacks started. They're now starting the early kilometres of the Col d'Izoard, and we still feel only 86 kilometres into the stage when we get to the summit. From the top of this climb, there's still 100 kilometres to go, and that's a tough day for these men, which is why I don't think Armstrong yesterday really wanted to lay down the law. He's not forgotten that this bike race has still got almost 2 weeks of bike racing to go before he gets up to Paris.
Flying in 10th place, 3:19 back. Danilo De Luca, Yvon Parra of Kelme, Angel Casero of Spain, Aitor Garmendia and Alberto Lopez Muniain, and also Franca Pelazzotti. They are the leaders, and we are 105 kilometres from the finish of the stage. And this, of course, the last big real climb of the Alps. There's plenty more to come when we get down to the Pyrenees. There they are, De Luca on the front. A lot of the big names have been eliminated from the race for the yellow jersey, like Santiago Botero and, of course, Tour of Italy winner Gilberto Simoni. These are the leaders. There was with them David Moncoutier of Cofidis. He's been dropped about 15 minutes ago. So we just have 7 men now setting the pace. But it means that just at this moment in time, Jörg Jatzke of the Once team, there he is right in our camera lens, is the leader of the Tour on the road. Don't forget, we are now in our commercial-free half hour. This is trouble round the back of the race for the Australian champion here, Stuart O'Grady. Well, the Australians, Paul, they've had a wonderful, wonderful tour. Stuart is riding this sensibly. He's not a great climber. He knows if he can just hold this peloton under control once over the Izoard, he should be okay for the day.
Well, that's what he's thinking about right now. He just wants to survive. He's only got around about 8 kilometres to go to the summit of the climb, about 6 kilometres to go for the leaders right now. This is a very long and mythical climb, and in fact over the summit of this climb there's also a special monument, and that one is dedicated to Fausto Coppi, the man dubbed by the Italians Il Campionissimo. They
are in a little bit of trouble at the moment. I think they're finding the whole field yet again is attacking them. And I'm beginning to think that Lance Armstrong is not riding as well, even though, and I also think his team is finding it tough. They had a very hard day yesterday, and there's a lot of individual bike riders attacking the team of US Postal. Jörg Jatzke has made a good reading of the race today. He's got a long way to go to the finish, and he's now got to chase down this rider here, Aitor Garmendia, who's decided to go a long way from home. I can't believe he'll hold them off all the way. But hats off if he does. But I think Jörg Jatzke could be the next man in yellow by the end of this stage.
Well, right now I think everybody needs to rethink their tactics just a little bit in the leading group, because Garmendia certainly should not think about riding to the finish line on his own. He needs to take reference to just exactly where everybody else is behind him, and maybe just sit up and wait for the group that's chasing, which has reformed there on the first part of the descent, and he's riding alone, maybe 35 seconds in front of them. Now, to succeed in a breakaway like this, which has still got 95 kilometres to go to the finish, you really need as many allies as possible. US Postal need to look down the main field right now, Phil, and see if they've got any allies in the other teams. Maybe the big problem for them right now is they're not going to get any help from Team Bianchi, because Jan Ullrich has got his teammates in the leading group, Angel Casero and Aitor Garmendia, and of course Team Once are going to sit back there and laugh at him, because they've got a man who's in a position to take the yellow jersey at the end of the stage if this breakaway succeeds.
Great tactic, and the sort of tactic we've been waiting to see, because we are in for a very, very good Tour de France this year. It's going to be a tough one for Lance, but he showed yesterday he was full of resistance on the climb. A nice shot, isn't it, that of the peloton winding its way down the giant Col d'Izoard. In the old days we've seen all of the great names fight out this climb. The road, of course, in the 50s and 40s was not as nicely surfaced as it is these days, as they wing their way down from the Alps today. They've got to be very careful. This is probably the most dangerous descent of the alpine climbs on this particular route today. Unguarded roadsides and sheer drops off them, so you've got to watch out. It's not unprecedented for riders to take off and plunge into the ravines. Roger Riviere back in the 60s was the most famous. He no sooner said goodbye to his wife on a climb, and he was over the side and in a ravine, and thank heavens his teammates saw him go, because nobody else did, and they had to go looking for him.
But that accident basically ended his career, because he was never the same man again.
He came back, but he never raced again. The next world champion, what a great bike rider he was too. Postal on the charge. They've got a lot of recalculating to do it again today, I feel. And this is Vyacheslav Yakimov here now, who's starting to keep the tempo high as he possibly can on the way down without overdoing it. They don't want to work over hard. If they have to pass the jersey to Yaks today, I think that is what they will do, and hope they can take it back in the time trial with Lance after the rest day. The field on the way down the mountain. What a beautiful scene it is, the Col d'Ivoire. Come back and join us live on OLN. Tor de France, remember, 1 hour of extra coverage today. The riders crossing the Col d'Ivoire here on OLN. Lance Armstrong under pressure for the second day as he now tries to defend for the first day his leader's yellow jersey. And at the moment, he is out of the lead, which is now on the shoulders of Jorg Yatsk, riding some 5.5 minutes in front as we go into the last 80 kilometers of the day, or 50 miles. There's the peloton now as it winds its way off the lower slopes of the Col d'Ivoire, regrouping, and there's many riders at the back there. They've yo-yoed on and off all day today, but they should be reasonably okay now. There's a second category climb to come. We finish off with a third category climb on the way into Gap, but hopefully now the non-climbers can breathe something of a sigh of relief, at least until we get down to the Pyrenees. But in the lead, Aitor Garmendia riding his 6th Tour de France, and not far behind him, Jorg Yatsk.
Well, if I was the team manager of Garmendia right now, I would just ask him to sit up and wait for the rest of the group, have the group reform, because there's a long way to ride to the finish. We're going through a very spectacular part of the course right now, through these gorges, which are not far away from the bottom of the Col d'Ivoire. He's doing a good job keeping himself topped up with food and energy. The important thing in a breakaway like this is not to get too excited about being at the front of the race, but to always remember to keep topping up with fluids, keep topping up with food, because at the end of the day, these riders on a stage like this will probably find themselves burning in the region of 6,000 calories. That's a lot of food to take on board all the time.
Well, the original breakaway of some 16 riders are still basically in front of the peloton, although they're split up in small little bunches right now. We'll just try and give you the layout on the road. At the moment, Aitor Gonzalez is ahead only by about 15 seconds, so he might be listening to Paul Shoei, because I think he might be waiting now for the arrival of a group of 6, Jorg Yatsk, Ivan Parra, Danilo De Luca, Franco Pelazzotti, Alberto Lopez de Muniain and Angel Casero. Those are chasing. Further down we've got Andrea Perron still chasing. The peloton is still timed at over 5 minutes with the yellow jersey of Lance Armstrong, and the most significant thing is that Yatsk was only 3:19 behind overnight in the overall classification.
Tactics once we get to the bottom of the Col d'Ivoire right now may change. I think what teams will try and look around and see is if there are any of the sprinters who have survived the big mountain, and they may well come around and try and help at the front end of the main field with Armstrong's US Postal team. Maybe the help could come from a team like Crédit Agricole if they see that their man Stuart O'Grady has got over the Col, and of course Baden Cook, who's leading the points competition for Française des Jeux. There might be a change in the strategies of teams who think then that they've got a chance of getting themselves a stage victory. So the way the race is looking right now, it is still Garmendia leaving, but in fact he's got a 1 minute and 20 seconds advantage over the 6 riders who were with him. And there we are looking at those 6 riders who are chasing right now. The pink jersey is Jorg Yatsk, who's making a seriously good operation today for Team Once, because he is currently riding on the road in the position of leader of the bike race. That's something that will not go unnoticed by Lance Armstrong and his US Postal Service team. The attacks will come like this every day for the next 2 weeks as people try to see if they can crack the man who's won the Tour de France for the last 4 years. I'm really amazed by the performance here of Garmendia, the team manager coming up alongside. And in fact, this is the second team manager who's coming up alongside to hand up drinks, and huge time gap back to the main field because it's now gone above 6 minutes and it's looking very precarious for Armstrong. They really need to turn up the gas, but it's a long way to go to the finish. The team manager there, by the way, of Team Bianchi in the second car is Alain Galopin, a member of 3 brothers who raced in the professional ranks. Guy Galopin and Joël Galopin raced in the 1970s when I was racing, and Alain in fact had to stop racing because he had rather a dramatic crash a couple of years ago, and it affected his middle ear, so he always then had a problem with his balance and could never get back up to the professional ranks. Slava Ekimov.
Yeah. He looks good, Paul, and he doesn't look as though he's a man who's panicking, does he?
They're not panicking at all. They know there's a long way to go to the finish. They dare not panic. They've got to calculate every effort that they use throughout the 3-week bike race, Phil, because it is so important to keep reserves for the last week of racing.
Looking at the descent here, the rear of the peloton, many riders coming back on all of the time. I don't know how many we've got behind today at the moment as the race continues down the Col d'Ivoire and on towards the finish. I reckon they've got about 78 kilometres to go, and the peloton are looking to bridge 6 minutes to get back into the action. So I think we can now go outside of our commentary box. They're very lucky, Kirsten Gum and Bob Roll. They're sitting out there in the sun. That's the beauty here of today's stage of the Tour de France. We are 30 kilometres now from the finish in Gap. The riders are struggling towards the summit of Saint Apollinaire, and this is now a really steep climb.
Have been caught out by this climb. Armstrong will not be caught out by this climb at all, because he's been here and looked at this. He in fact predicted that many riders would be surprised by the steepness of this climb, and it looked to me as if Angel Casera was rather overgeared on this climb.
Well, this has turned out to catch, as Paul has said, 1 or 2 people out. This has really kicked towards the top. The riders don't normally bother to go and investigate climbs of only second category because they're not known for steepness. The first and the ore category are the ones they fear. But this is a little bit of a nasty at 1 kilometre to climb for the summit. But Jörg Jatsk has had a brilliant day. What great form this rider has found for the Tour de France this year. And hanging on there is the little man, and the para is climbing very, very well indeed, and must be feeling pretty pleased with his form. He hasn't shown any great weakness at all. David Miller too, now coming to grips with the steep part of the climb. Miller is closing in. He's just over a minute behind the leader now.
Miller has halved the gap between himself and what is now down to 2 leaders, 1 minute and 14 seconds. He started his chase when it was 2.5 minutes from the leading group back to the main peloton. He really is suffering on this climb, but I tell you what, he's got to do something special to try and get it to the 1 minute margin. I think he'll halve it to 30 seconds once he goes over the summit, because David Miller can go downhill very fast indeed. He really has to find a tempo right now. It's slowly levelling off this climb, which the average is 7.5%. But as you saw there, Phil, it really does kick up steeply in a couple of portions.
Oh, and look at this now. Jörg Jatsk is finding the hill. Oh, no, sorry, we've gone further down here as legs are locking up with the Once riders, who have now been trying to slow down the chase of US Postal, paying the price, but gone to the back of the field here. And this gives you some idea now. This has caught these big riders out today.
It's all a question of gear ratios as well. I think many riders surprised by the steepness. They looked at the race today, and they've probably put on something like a 22 or a 23 tooth sprocket in the rear. Because of the steepness here, they probably needed a 25. And look at Armstrong. Armstrong is dancing away on the pedals. He's down to his last 2 teammates here right now. Beltran on the front there, Roberto Heras on the right-hand side. Ulrich, Phil, is always present. Look at him on the left-hand side,
all
looking
sitting
good.
on Armstrong, waiting. This is amazing. Christophe Moreau is the rider in the green and the white jersey. Vinokurov is peeping in that purple crash helmet. David Miller is at 1 minute 24 now of catching the leaders, and the leaders, remember, have been out there almost all day. The British rider has a real chance here now to possibly pull off the stage win. We're looking at 29 kilometres still to ride. This isn't the last climb of the day, but it's beginning to look, Paul, as though it's doing more damage than the giant Col d'Ivoire.
But the incredible thing about Armstrong, there's a problem there. That looks like Balocchi's gone.
Balocchi's gone. He's waited. He said he would hit Armstrong every chance he got. He is gone.
Well, it's a steep climb, a tough climb. These are the 2 leaders right now. I wish we could stay with the main field.
Here we are.
And Armstrong has responded. There's
straight
no
away,
weakness
right there. Saw him coming and has taken him. He's blown his teammates away. It's 1-on-1. You've got to salute Joshua Balocchi. Ulrich could not do that. Ulrich has seen the move go. He's second in line on the right. He's trying to move round and react, but indeed that is a great attack. They're doing what they say every day they will do. They are hitting Lance Armstrong. Once today have ridden so well, putting Jörg Jatsk up the lead, making US Postal chase all day, and they may have known what this hill was like.
They probably went down as well because their team manager, Manolo Sainz, is a master tactician and a technician as well. He goes out, he reviews everything. He reviews all the latest equipment, which is why in the first opening days of the Tour de France, David Miller was very upset with the equipment that his team had because he felt that Team Once had a much superior line of material. There you can see coming up there as well, Iban Mayo is not too far away from Armstrong, but Armstrong is just sitting and looking at Bolocki. I think he's back to form.
He's under pressure, but he's wide awake when it comes to keeping an eye on the opposition. We've gone back to the leaders of the climb here now, proving to be a bitter climb. This one, Jörg Jatsk and Ivan Parra. Parra has only won one race here, 3 races in his career. He's been a pro since '97, but he is a very, very good climber. He's a Colombian rider. As we're now just about to top the summit, Jörg Jatsk of Once will take the prize at the summit with Parra in second place.
I think they will both be very relieved to hit that summit here. We're looking now at a very select group forming behind. I think, in fact, Jan Ullrich may well have recovered. You know, Ullrich does not have the acceleration of these guys on the climbs because he actually uses a much bigger gear than anybody else, and it takes him a while to get it going. It's like having a big diesel engine. Once it gets up to speed, it works perfectly, but he's not able to take it up there quickly. There he is in 5th position.
He's there. We've also got Iban Mayo here, so the top 3 riders in the overall classification. Tagging on the back 2 is Jan Ullrich and Tyler Hamilton. So this is a very select bunch of riders, isn't it?
Hamilton actually said this morning he was very worried about this climb because you see all these riders nowadays, they're looking at the critical points of the Tour de France a lot more than they did in the past. He was worried about this climb because he knew he had to pull on the handlebars to get up this climb. The Alpine passes, like the Galibier or the Alpe d'Huez, he can mainly ride sitting down in the saddle. But this climb is so steep, he knew he would have to pull on the bars, but excuse me, he's pulled on them pretty nicely because he's with the big boys.
He's still sat in the saddle. It's painful when he gets out of that saddle. He says he has to use lower gears because he has to stay in the saddle. Well, we're going forward to the summit. Who are we going to see next in our picture? It's the British rider, David Miller. And he has really ridden this mountain very, very well indeed. He's a good descender. When he's free on his own, he's a very good individual rider against the clock. He's in his speciality here. He can still cross this gap in 28 kilometres to the leaders. But Lance Armstrong is preoccupied now. He is being attacked yet again in the Alps by the riders on the leaderboard. And Joshiba Bolocki on his shoulder. But he is not cracking. He is still in control of this tour.
Further down the group here, you can see the French champion Didier Roux in difficulty, but Joshiba Bolocki, hats off to him, Phil. He's not scared. He's not overawed by the fact that Lance Armstrong has won the Tour de France on 4 occasions. He feels in his legs that he's got the form this year. He knows he's got to hit Armstrong in the mountains because he's not as good as him in the individual time trials. This is a bit of a surprise, though, because that is Christophe Moreau in difficulty.
But he's having a very good tour. He's the best placed Frenchman. He's climbing back into the action here, but he's losing a little bit of ground at the moment as they can. There's Santiago Botero, is it? Well, that's the best day he's having. I don't know quite how far down the course we are at the moment.
Bit of a surprise to see Botero recovering like that, and it's also a surprise to see Christophe Moreau in the group of Botero, who really is not in the great form that we expected. In that group as well was Jose Acevedo, the Once rider. Moving up through the field, we get a chance to see who's around. Bettini is in this group.
They've had this race has split asunder on this climb here, completely smashed. George Tocznik, champion of Austria, putting in a little move there as our camera moves forward to pick up the groups here. Looking down on a Tour de France, all of a sudden has gone upside down again. But this is a brilliant race this year. And these are the 2 men head-to-head again as we say goodbye to the Alps. It's not over yet. Come back and join us soon. Speed away from this insignificant little climb today, which has totally annihilated the field. The climb of Saint Apollinaire after 156 kilometres of today's stage. Armstrong now involved in a dire battle with Joshiba Bolocki on his side, and so too Iban Mayo. It's changing at the front as well. Jörg Jatsk and Parra have now been joined by Angel Casero, and Pelazzotti, as we speak, is also coming back on board. Still in pursuit, David Miller. The yellow jersey of Armstrong, it seems to be a little bit of common sense come back now. The attack was well delivered there by Bolocki, but Armstrong had the measure of it. So they've gone back into the what is left of the big peloton. I suspect over the next 20 kilometres the riders will steadily come back into the comfort, or the comparative comfort, of the main field, and here they are one by one moving back in.
Well, the group's starting to swell in numbers as we start this long descent. We've just gone inside of 25 kilometres to go, and a lot of riders put into pressure because of that rather difficult climb, and Armstrong really needs to have his teammates recover as well and get to the front, because he's pretty isolated there with only Roberto Heras. But I think I just caught a glimpse of Rubiera coming into the group, so the first thing he will do is ride straight past all of these riders, go to the front end of this group, Phil.
Start work.
Start setting the tempo
it's amazing,
again.
Isn't it? There he goes, Paul, as you speak. Speeding up on the outside there.
You can just see him there halfway down the main field. Postal are an unbelievable team, but they are completely dedicated to their leader, Lance Armstrong. Just look at that rider in the blue jersey at the front in 5th position now, riding up alongside. He'll probably tap Armstrong on the shorts as he gets up here and say, well, Lance, I'm back. I've had a hard time, but I'm still here.
Lance will probably say, where have you been?
I don't think so. He has complete and utter respect for his teammate. Yesterday, he just could say not enough good things about his team. We were into town. Going through the sprint there, it looked like Casero was across the line in first place.
Yeah, Casero, Yaxis is George, and the race goes on. We're 20 kilometres from the finish now. This is the 164 kilometre point. Again, the sprint's not meaning a lot, but they get a little bit of money for it. Of course, we all base it in euros in Europe these days, which is pretty much in a par with the US dollar as well. But as they continue on, these 4 riders all together, they've struggled. Pelazzotti particularly and Casero have yo-yoed on and off when the going gets hard, but they're going into gap once they're over the next climb, the 3rd category climb, as we go under 20 to go. It is a different sprint, and if they can hang on to their position, and they may lose time, of course, on the 3rd cat, but if they keep coming back, they still have a chance of winning at this stage. Now, somewhere behind, and here he is, David Miller is closing the gap, but it's a tough fight now. He has got to settle in now because 4 men are fresh-legged up front, comparatively so. Miller's been out for quite a while. He's 6 minutes and 4 seconds behind Lance Armstrong, the overall leader.
Well, in fact, I just did a quick unofficial time check.
Yep.
He's only 28 seconds behind the 4 leaders. Once those 2 riders came from the back there and started to reintegrate the leading group of 4, they swept across the road and it became a cycle. And look at this. The pressure has come off in the front group right now. Jorg Yats has come up alongside his team car. He's having a quick chat there. Miller will be back on, I would predict, Phil, in around 3 or 4 kilometres.
Well, these 4 now more concerned with final fluid for the long run in. They've been a terrific breakaway when you think about it. There's 16 of them at the start. Now these have whittled down, and Casero and Pelazzotti in particular shown terrific tenaciousness. They fought back as soon as the road has gone downhill again, and I think Pelazzotti could win this stage like this, but Miller is the man. He is closing fast now, and if he can get them on the climb, he will have the fresh legs, I think.
In the tactics, that's why it's so complicated to figure out just exactly what's going on. There are so many different teams. This is the team manager coming up alongside here of David Miller. In the distance there, you can see a small gaggle of cars. That is the group of the 4 leaders. That's Van der Londezele there. He's the team manager of Team Cofidis. He's actually just been given the sole team manager's position. There were at one stage 3 team managers with Cofidis, too many generals and nobody actually taking the decisions, and that change happened immediately after the incident that happened to David Miller in the prologue time trial. The 4 leaders, Phil, they're losing momentum right now. They're moving across the road, they're slowing down, they're not a cohesive group as they were before. There they are right now, the team cars are all behind them, and as we pull back, there is David Miller. He's 20 seconds.
Well, I started the watch because he is a lot closer than our computer is telling us.
Oh, so's the main field.
But that echelon means the wind is coming from the top left side as the riders form that flag. They'll pick up a tailwind when they turn right here now. And again, it looks as though Pelazzotti, who's had problems on the hills, has now launched a desperate attack to run for the finish with 15 kilometres to go. That looked like the banner there.
That was Pelazzotti's move there from number 4 position in the group. He went straight down the right-hand side. Very tactical. 15 kilometres to go. Phil Miller's going to come up right now. And what Miller has to do, makes the junction with these guys, is hit them hard and go straight away.
He's got to, and hope that the bunch behind do not react totally. They want the man in the pink jersey, Jorg Yats, who looks to have given up at this point.
This is tactical, they're stopping. This is almost like a track race right now. This is Angel Casero on the front accelerating. Ivan Para coming from second position to move up and try and pull himself back. But this is not good for the average speed of a breakaway right now, because they might be doing 50 kilometers an hour for a short period, then they drop down to 30, but their average is very slow. Miller cannot be very much more than 15 seconds in arrears.
He must be coming close. They're saying 36 seconds at the moment, but I think with that cat and mouse playing, which has cost them dearly, so near the end, Angel Casero is the man trying to keep the momentum within the breakaway. These are the long bronze legs of David Miller. He's consistent and time trialing his way up towards those leaders now. The main field, though, with Lance Armstrong in, is just over 1 minute behind them all. It's going to be tough at 15 kilometers to go. That is the location of the peloton, and the peloton can see the leaders.
Down to 1 minute, the difference between the yellow jersey group of Lance Armstrong and the four leaders, and David Miller is caught almost halfway across the gap right now. But there's a complete change at the front end of the main field, because Euskaltel-Euskadi are working with Armstrong. They want to lead the team classification. Another acceleration coming off the frontier right now. Ivan Para is the man parrying all of these attacks at the moment, but it's a move by Oscar Franco Pellizotti, who's gone off the frontier. He's trying to find himself the lone advantage. Para counter-attacks right now. He's trying to get a win for Colombia.
Well, he's launched one, and this is a very, very determined attack here. Yax is suffering and trying, so too Casero and Pellizotti. Grits his teeth. It's Casero and Pellizotti who are the two weakest in this four-man breakaway. But they're on, but they can't go through it and keep going at the pace. This is not good.
Once again, after that flurry of attacks, they're slowing down. Miller is slowly but surely pulling his way up here on the front end of the main field. Lance Armstrong's team are doing a brilliant job. They're finding an ally right now in Euskaltel-Euskadi, the team who were attacking them yesterday. It's amazing how everything changes on the road of the Tour de France. You can have a team meeting in the morning and decide what the tactics are going to be, but there are 22 teams and everyone has a different tactic, so you've always got to be able to have a flexible ability on the race route to change the way you're planning your attacks.
Crowd here cheer the riders on. They're inside now, inside 14 kilometers to go, La Bâtie-Neuve, and these four riders are not together now at all. They're individual pacemakers.
La Bâtie-Neuve is 5 kilometers from the summit of the climb, so we're not too far away from the foot of the final climb of the day, the Côte de la Rochette, and it is an ideal launch pad. If David Miller can catch these guys, his fresher legs should be able to launch an attack straight the way past. And I got a funny feeling this morning at breakfast you were putting down a certain David Miller to win the stage.
Well, I have a feeling about him today, because it's a perfect stage for David. He's lost a little bit of time. He's run stages like this before. He's got to get on, of course, and go straight by on this climb, which is just ahead of them. But it is perfect. Here he comes into the same town, La Bâtie-Neuve. They've just gone around that corner. Miller's got a much quicker, steady tempo going here. Straight round that corner, pedaling all the way through and using the shortest route through the roads. And there's the board for him again. He won't like the news that the peloton is not far behind, but he'll be thinking if he can catch them and leave them, the peloton are looking to pick up Jörg Jatzke. If they catch him, they might think that's it for the day.
Oh, he's hovering. 32.
Oh, here's an attack by Para. Para goes before the climb even starts. In fact, Casero swinging off almost knocked him off. Now, nobody has reacted to that attack.
Oh, that's a hard attack, and you know there's been so many attacks so far and so many reactions. It's a psychological moment like this. Casero said, well, I've gone so many times, it's up to someone else right now, and this man from Colombia has opened up a pretty sensible advantage around about 10 seconds very quickly indeed. Miller is 32 seconds in arrears, but that, Phil, really hit them hard, and Casero almost took him into the ditch.
He was moving over to let somebody else come through. Well, he did, but on the other side. Now, that's a great attack by the Colombian rider. The Colombians don't have many riders in the Tour, but by goodness me, we know all about them this year.
We certainly do. We've seen a lot coming from the Colombian riders. A Colombian rider world champion at the individual time trial, Santiago Botero. A Colombian rider leading the Tour de France for the first time this year in Victor Hugo Peña. One of the greatest Colombians at the finish of the race yesterday, Lucho Herrera, was there with all of the previous Alpe d'Huez winners. And maybe this young man today wants to put his name into the history books as well.
Wow, where is David Miller on this climb here? Because this is his big effort now. Being from Colombia, he's a climber, not a sprinter. And he's had to use the last uphill slope of the Alps to try and slip away and head up to the finish. He's got about 12 kilometers to go. He's got 3.5 kilometers to climb to the top. This is not a major climb, but the cars are being moved away here, and that means that the field and David Miller just ahead of them are coming up very, very quickly. And there goes Jörg Jatsk. He knows that the field is closing in. This is his last desperate effort now to survive a long, hot day in the lead.
Put into cycling terms, Phil, these guys are all absolutely nailed right now. They are digging so deep to try and get themselves out into the victory position. But, you know, it's been a tough day in the saddle for everybody. It's been a long, hard day of mountains in the early part of the course.
They've used a lot of energy. Back with David Miller. He is inching closer and closer, but it doesn't matter. David Miller is caught by the peloton, and they glance across at him. He just checks out how many riders have picked him up, but he made a great effort there.
And he tried. It was a stage that he picked out. He'd marked it in his race Bible, Phil, that he wanted to go out and get this one, but he wasn't able to survive. He will go down into the books as having gone out on the attack, as Ivan Para is still leading this bike race, but only by about 15 seconds from Jörg Jatsk, who's in second place on the road. David Miller back in the fold, but you know, the time gap back to the yellow jersey group of Lance Armstrong is not much more than 40 seconds. David Etxebarria, another Basque rider on the attack.
They're having a wonderful tour now. Euskaltel Euskadi, these were the underdogs when they arrived. Now they've been treated to so much success, they're going to try anything. And David Etxebarria is a previous stage winner on uphill finish in the Tour de France. Ooh, I think his legs just cracked, though, Paul. It has got all of a sudden very, very hard.
Ouch, that hurts. They are, after all, Phil, leading the team classification by and a team none other by the name of US Postal Service. They are 2.5 minutes ahead of Lance Armstrong's team in the overall classification. Etxebarria looking over his shoulder. That's a bad sign. His anger and pain all over his face right now, but they're going to pull him back before we get to the summit. The race situation at the moment is Ivan Para in the lead, still being chased by Jörg Jatsk, and still holding on in the middle, Casero and Pellizotti, but this man Etxebarria will not give up.
You don't win stages without huge efforts in the Tour de France. He won 2 in 1999 at Saint-Flour and Pau, but he hasn't won a stage since. This is the man leading the way at the moment. Ivan Para, famous name in the Tour de France. Fabio Para was a great rider in this race about 15-20 years ago. David Miller now paying his price. He's losing contact with the peloton.
You have to make the effort, and if it doesn't work, you have to give it everything at that moment, and Miller did that. He was almost across to the leaders, which you have to say is pretty impressive when you think that those guys have led the race for around about 120 kilometres. Para, though, I don't know where he's getting this energy from. He really is doing a superb job. Etxebarria has just been caught by the leading group of Armstrong. But this, on a day when most people thought would be a big... Vinokurov is now going to have a go as well.
They will not give US Postal an easy ride. They anticipated a normal, traditional day in the Tour de France, an attack from a lowly placed riders to run away with the stage, and they all cruise to the finish. That is not what has happened. The US Postal have been hit by everybody today.
We are not going to have a normal Tour de France this year. There is Angel Casero just being caught. He'll very rapidly back in the main field. Vinokurov now is thinking about a stage victory. Vinokurov is well up in the overall classification.
Fourth overall, 77 seconds behind. There's a chance. Here we are. Jörg Jatsk, the man of the day. He should get the prize of most combative rider as he comes up again to Para towards the top of this climb.
Well, if this was soccer, he'd get the man of the match. That's for absolute certain. He's been on the attack, he's been on the offensive, and he's also been in the position.
Intensive as well, I think.
And he's also been in the yellow jersey out on the open road, and he now has pulled himself back up to Ivan Para. If these guys can survive to the top of the climb, they may well have a chance. This is a surprise. David Rebellin going off the back.
Also, I think that's the first time we've mentioned his name since the race began too. He's dropping off the back into the convoy of cars. Got a little bit too hot for him on the climb. David Miller's amongst these cars now somewhere as well. Once over the top, but inside, 10 kilometres to go now. This is the carnage at the back of the race now as riders have been hit by the fast pacemaker US Postal. This has been a hot, hot day.
Massimiliano Lelli, one of David Miller's teammates, going backwards. Look at this.
Vinokurov, he's caught the two leaders here.
Unbelievable. He's made the gap. The gap cannot be very much more than 20 seconds between the two leaders right now and the main field. Alexander Vinokurov, fourth in the overall classification at the start of the day, a minute 17 down, and they've got to dig deep to stay with him. Phil, he's got a brilliant gap. You can't see the main field yet.
Well, this is amazing because, you know, there is a chance with 9 kilometers to go that the yellow jersey could still change hands.
Unbelievable. This is going to be a magical Tour de France. We've still got a lot of racing to go. We've only just about covered half distance in the Tour de France right now. Paris paid for his price. He had to give everything on his attempt to get off the front of the main field, and now he'll get picked up by the yellow jersey group of Armstrong. Vinokurov riding the time trial of his life right now, a minute 17 behind in the overall classification. It is possible this man could be the new yellow jersey at the end of the day. Armstrong's team, though, Phil, they're not panicking. They're allowing these attacks to go up the front, and they're slowly but surely just bringing them back.
Well, I don't think they're allowing them to go off the front, Paul, but they are bringing them back. I'll give you that half of the question. But look at them now. They are now stripping their riders off the front too. There's only one left here, and it's Roberto Heras alongside Lance Armstrong. And Yoshiba Bolocki is sitting there poised and waiting. He's going to hit again if he gets half a chance towards the top. This peloton, as we see Casero pass through and off the back now, are really under pressure. Vinokurov has got 20 seconds lead of his 1:17 deficit. He gets 20 seconds for the win. That makes 40. He needs another 30 seconds, and he's the race leader of the Tour.
He has cracked the man who has been in the breakaway since the Col de l'Ottare. Jorg Yats has left the man from Kazakhstan all on his own at the front of the bike race right now. This is an unbelievable move by him. He actually, Phil, needs to finish a minute in front if he wants to get the yellow jersey at the end of the day. He's 20 seconds in front right now, but I tell you what, the yellow jersey group of Lance Armstrong will slowly turn up the gas. This is Para. He's about to get caught.
So Para is now wiped out by the Maillot Jaune group of Lance Armstrong, the group that patrols the mountains of the Alps and just chops them down one by one. But this man has decided now was the time to go. A long third category climb. That's not a steep climb by the categorization of the cols of the Alps, but this is proving to be, after a long hot day, not just today in the sun, but the whole 10 days of the Tour. And Vinokurov now is moving clear of the field.
Gilberto Simoni, the winner of the Tour of Italy this year, said that the first day of the Alps in the mountains was going to be the toughest. I tell you what, he might think it's this one after the stage, because this is unbelievable.
But Armstrong goes now. This man has got to take up the leadership of his team and the race now, because he's got no teammates left and he still has a dangerous rival on the attack. He is rising to the occasion. The great cyclist he is.
Just look who's on his wheel, though. Yoshiba Bolocki, Jan Ullrich, Ivan Basso, and the man who won the stage yesterday, Iban Mayo. When it comes down to it, Armstrong has still got it. He knows how to control his challenges.
But he has been put under pressure like he's never known in a Tour de France. They are hitting him at every opportunity. We've never seen a Tour when the leader's been hit so much. They're the hero of the day, Jorg Yats. Couldn't believe it when the Maillot Jaune of the Tour went past him. Surely he can't hold on to this group now. His team captain, but Yoshiba Bolocki, sits on the wheel now of Lance Armstrong. Armstrong is still concerned as the Star-Spangled Banner flies on the left now. It's Vinokurov of Kazakhstan who races to the summit in pursuit, the yellow jersey of the Tour.
He's in complete control here right now, Phil. He's used his teammates to perfection, as he always does. Vinokurov going over the summit there in first position. The only man left to chase him down right now is Lance Armstrong. The clock has started. Vinokurov was fourth at the start of the day, a minute 17 behind in the overall classification, but Mr. Armstrong himself has taken up the pace, making 15 seconds. He'll take a daredevil descent right now and try and pull him back into the fold.
15 small seconds. Armstrong is behind Vinokurov and trying to bring this race back together. Unbelievable. As we watch now, Alexander Vinokurov, 15 seconds ahead, 20 if he wins the stage. It is going to be very close. This has been a superb day in the Tour de France. The roads of the Tour de France, there are 5 kilometers to go now, and Yoshiba Bolocki and Lance Armstrong are being forced to chase down the mountain in pursuit of Alexander Vinokurov. All of a sudden, the top 2 riders of 1 year ago have had to combine to try and control Alexander Vinokurov. This has been a sensational day in the Tour de France. The gap is still 13 seconds between the two, and this will be a fantastic win by Alexander Vinokurov, because when you're this high up overall and you can break the grip of the leaders, then you are riding superbly. Look at the road, because the sun has melted the bitumen today and it's making it very, very slippery indeed. That was a rather dodgy corner there, but still he's trying to pull out the little seconds which could make the big difference here. Oh, and look, oh, Bolocchi's gone down and Armstrong has taken to the grass. I hope Bolocchi is not hurt. That was an awful crash. Armstrong has gone, I've never seen anything like this in my life. Armstrong is now crossing the course. I have never seen that in my life, as Lance Armstrong is back in the group. Well, what about Yoshiba Bolocchi? No sooner was I telling you about the road surface becoming absolutely treacherous than on that loose tar, down went Yoshiba Bolocchi. Now, if we are hearing that Vinokurov may also have crashed, we are waiting for confirmation of that. But we are looking here now, Lance Armstrong remounting, as everybody know Vinokurov is okay. But now what has that done to the overall classification? Because I hate to say it, but it looks as though Yoshiba Bolocchi is out of the Tour de France here. What a great shame.
Paul,
sorry, Paul, go on.
He's down, he is hurt. I think he could very well be out of the Tour de France. What happened there, Phil, was he locked up his back wheel, and as he went sideways, the tyre popped off, and then he just couldn't control it. He was sliding on the metal. He went off the road. But what about Armstrong? Armstrong was unbelievable. He saw there was only one thing to do. There was only one place to go. I hope the judges don't penalise him for taking a shortcut.
The thought did cross my mind, but this is a very, very sad sight. We have been watching the greatest Tour de France for years, and here Vinokurov is racing now, probably towards the stage win, and they're closing in. He's certainly up to second place overall. Bolocchi, because I was telling you seconds before it happened how dangerous the loose bitumen with the sun melting the tar was, and then he was out of control. But I have a feeling that Bolocchi has either broken his collarbone or his pelvis. He fell very, very badly.
But that chaos has given the advantage now to Alexander Vinokurov. He is 30 seconds ahead of the group of Armstrong, and now Armstrong has found a few allies because the other challengers now have decided to come forward, set the pace making. Tyler Hamilton, Iban Mayo, Haimar Zubeldia on the far side in the lime jersey there, but at the back, further back, I think it's the end of Yoshiba Bolocchi. Started the day in second. He's not going to finish the Tour de France.
Jose Azevedo there is asking, shall I go on? What shall I do? He's waiting here to find Georgiatsk as well with him. The man of the here of the day staying. He can't believe what he's seeing. As we move forward now, it looks as though Yoshiba Bolocchi is out of the Tour de France. That, for us, is a terrible, terrible shame, not to mention what it means to Bolocchi, because it was the fault of the melting tar on the road. Lance Armstrong took the journey of a lifetime. I cannot believe what he did there to get across, but he's back in the race.
It just goes to show it does a lot of good riding cyclocross, which Armstrong does in the winter, and of course riding mountain bikes as well, because that decision was unbelievable. He never panicked. He knew exactly what he had to do. He looked at the road in front of him and thought, I can go there, and he did. This man now inside the last kilometre.
Well,
let's get back to the race.
Indeed, indeed. 1 kilometre to go. Alexander Vinokurov is looking where they all are, and the answer is they're in a rather, to say the least, big trouble now, as Vinokurov is running down here to win the stage and to move into second place. It is touch and go whether indeed he will take the leader's yellow jersey. This is a man riding his 4th Tour de France. He's never finished lower than 35th overall, but he's never won a stage until today. Now, whatever happened behind him wasn't his fault. This is a well-deserved stage win. He worked so hard for it as he comes to the line.
He won't take the yellow jersey because the yellow jersey group of Lance Armstrong is under the Flamme Rouge already themselves. They can't be very much more than 30 seconds behind. What's important for Vinokurov, though, Phil, is the stage victory. He's digging deep right now. He'll move up in the overall classification to second place. But what a dramatic stage.
He raced right to the line there as he waves and swings the baby, but Alexander Vinokurov takes the stage with a brilliant late attack. But here comes the sprint now for second place, and Yoshiba Bolocchi is not in it, and that is a terrible, terrible shame. Now the seconds are ticking away. Nearly 20 have passed by. He gets 20 for the win. They've got to finish it off inside 30 seconds. Otherwise, here comes Paolo Bettini. In this sort of a group, they'll never get near the champion of Italy. Bettini, Lance Armstrong goes. The bonus may prove extra special here. As Bettini goes to 3rd place, he gets it on the line. The 3rd place will be taken by Iban Mayo, and he gets the bonus. About 40 seconds was the gap, Paul. and a 20-second win bonus. He will keep his yellow jersey, but we are talking of a few seconds now.
We're talking a few seconds, but what a dramatic performance there by Armstrong, because, you know, that man was calm and collected. He made the right decision at the time. There was nowhere else for him to go. Paolo Bettini getting across the line in second place, but what's more important, I think, is Lance Armstrong was up and safe. Such sad news for Team Once, who played their cards to perfection. A Yoshiba Bolocki, who was looking brilliant in the Tour de France this year, and right now his hopes have gone away on the side of the road.
Well, it's Bastille Day in France. A rider from Kazakhstan has won the stage. A rider from the United States keeps yellow, and a rider from Spain, we fear, is out of the Tour de France, and that is a great, great shame as the riders race down the tricolour flag of France to the line in Gap. Well, we're looking here at the rocking and rolling. Let's have a look at that crash again as we now see what happened to Bolocki and how, in fact, off the middle of the road went Lance Armstrong. Moments after I told you about the loose surface of the tar, the crash is on his right hip and elbow there. Lance didn't know what to do, then he went on a direct course. How lucky was that to have the road on a horseshoe bend? We'll take a break. We are now looking at the winner of the day, Alexander Vinokurov of Kazakhstan, and he's moved even closer in the overall situation now. Second on the stage, Paolo Bettini. Third, Iban Mayo. Another great day for him. Lance Armstrong, 36 seconds, all of these riders in fourth. Jan Ullrich right behind him in fifth. George Tocznik there, the champion of Austria. Zubeldia was there. Top 10 completed by Tyler Hamilton. Well, that was such a sad moment.
First stage ever in the Tour.
Yeah, of course, it's the first my victory in the Tour. I am very happy, and today I don't think about victory, but in the last climb I feel good. I say okay, I tried, but I don't believe it. He wants me less to go with her team, but I'm win stage today. I'm very happy, and it's unbelievable victory.
Yesterday you were very strong attacking Lance. Today, was that the plan, to attack Lance to try to get some time for the classification?
Today I not think about, but in the second category I feel not so good, and then last climb I say okay. I say to Botero if he'll feel good attack, but he say no. Okay, I say I tried me, and I tried, and I win the stage, and it's unbelievable.
Did you see the crash? Did you see how Bolocki went down?
Yeah, but I see in TV, but I don't see in the race. I see this corner, it's very dangerous, but I see I pass not so fast, and but it's the race.
Okay. Thank you very much, Vinny. Congratulations.
Thanks. Thank you.
And you just saw the replay of the crash. What happened?
Well, Vino attacked, and so we were going after, and Bolocki panicked, not panicked, but he was sort of hungry to take him back, so we were bombing the descent. It's hot as hell, and the pavement was melting, and he just locked him up in one corner, and the back tire got a little loose, and ended up rolling the tire and then blowing the tire, and then he couldn't control it, went over the bike, and he was over in the way, and the only way I had to go was in this field. So I got about 10 meters into it, and I said, I can't turn around now. I got to just keep going. I looked ahead, and I said, I think I can make this. Hell, at some guy's field, he probably has corn in there normally, and there was nothing in there, just dirt. So I just rode it, waiting for the tire to blow, and then I got to the end, and I thought, oh no, I see a drop-off coming. So then I jumped off the bike and jumped down.
So your first reaction was it to turn to come back on the road, and if it wouldn't have been straight, where you could have cut across, do you think you could have made it back?
Back to the group?
No, just back around to the road where Bolocki crashed.
I don't know. I would have had to just stop and turn around and run back out, but no, I saw it, and I knew there was another switchback coming, so I thought
You thought this is perfect.
I thought this is great. I'll just cut the corner.
How many cyclocross races did you do this winter?
I did one. Today was my second one.
Obviously, you look in much better shape today than you did yesterday. Do you feel like the old Lance is back?
Today was a hard day, long and a lot of attacks, and hard on our team, very hard on the team, and they did a good job hanging in there and not panicking. But yesterday was a bad day, and for those technical reasons I described yesterday, I paid the price. And so
early on, Jaksch got in the group. Tactics: keep it easy over the Iserrad, keep the team together, and then worry about catching them later.
I mean, we were prepared to give up 2 more minutes and keep 2 more guys and let it. You know, we knew we've done this stage in training. We know the course. We know it comes back on a big road. Most likely going to be a big headwind. It's better to have a whole team there to roll.
Thanks a lot.